Welcome everyone back to another episode of our transformation series. My name is Emily Rentas. I'm the owner and founder of Paragon Solstice, a coaching and consultant company dedicated to working with individuals, businesses, and organizations around transformation and resilience in an effort to create a pattern of excellence at its highest peak. Today we have Moira Hutchinson from Canada, who is an intuitive coach who will be sharing her personal story of resilience and transformation, and how that experience is currently part of her life and the work that she does with her clients. Thank you, Moira, for joining us today. I really appreciate you having you here today and sharing your story and all the wonderful work that you do with your clients. So Moira, tell us a little bit about yourself and what is your story of what got you stuck?
Thank you, Emily, and it's my pleasure to be here. I love the vibe you're bringing, and sharing stories of transformation is so important to helping people see themselves, to see how maybe they can take little nuggets from different people's stories. So my stuck story is quite a long time ago. It took a while to come through what I experienced, but as a young adult, I joined a cult and was in there for 2 years. And part of what took me in there was the organization gave me a platform or gave me a place to follow my own calling. My calling is to help, to be of service, to help people heal and find their own unique gifts. And so this and it's an interesting situation to go into, because if you are looking for something and somebody says, oh sure, I've got this, as a young adult we don't generally have the skill set or the awareness or the wisdom even to say, oh wait a minute, I need to feel into that. I need to check in and see, does it tick all the boxes that I have? Does it suit all aspects of me? And this is a really important piece about getting stuck, is that sometimes you get stuck because you just say, oh, well, this is the best thing that can happen for me at this point. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, no. And that's such an important piece that you talked about early on when you're a young adult, that you're looking towards individuals, groups, and folks towards an answer of, this is the answer, this is the place or the situation where I can connect my identity or a solution to my problems, and that's that finding yourself when you're young, right? And that's why, our prefrontal cortex in our brain takes about till the age of 25 to like develop and things like that. So it's so important to talk about how, as young adults, you're trying to find yourself, and you could be susceptible to listening to certain things that are not really aligned with you. And that's where you talk about intuition.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the whole part, because I can remember there were various times where I'd go, oh, that doesn't feel quite right. Or, I can remember witnessing some people leaving under a bit of a dark cloud. And it was really interesting experience, because the people that were left would say things like, oh, well, I always knew that was a bad person, that they didn't fit in the group way of being. There was a lot of rules of what you could and couldn't do and say, and so when you were considered a bad person or you had left, like I said, everybody was like, oh, I always knew that. And I remember this was early on, that I would remember thinking, I didn't feel that about that person. I thought they were pretty good. They had wisdom or something to say or share or part of the group. And so I would put those kind of thoughts into the back of my mind, of course, because I couldn't talk to other people about it, because then that would be me being shown as, well, there's something questioning about me. Mm-hmm. So then you would get handled because they didn't accept questioning.
And a good point what you were talking about right there, the groupthink mentality. Mm-hmm. Anybody who steps outside of the circle, they're
booted out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And for you said that you were still able to identify that that person still had value in who they
Yes.
were. It
Yeah.
wasn't about because they didn't align with what you guys believe, you still saw them separate.
Yes, I did. I did. And so you see, that's why I'm an intuitive coach now, because I've always been intuitive. That's part of my own design,
Mm-hmm.
is that intuitive wisdom. But what has to happen and help get developed is trusting it.
Yes.
Because when you are in a group where you say, oh, well, everybody does this, or you have to do it this way, or you need to align, and if you don't, then you're not a good person.
Mm-hmm.
So then it starts to, the inner dialogue starts to say, oh, well, maybe I don't know. Maybe that intuitive whisper isn't leading me in the right way or giving me the right direction, you know? So and that's to your point earlier, you were saying about the young. I was 21 when I came out, when I finally was able to realize, no, I have to make a change. It was like the red flags had kept building and building and building, and like I said, not being able to talk or have somebody as a sounding board really leaves you feeling very stranded and alone, that maybe there's something wrong with me, right, internally.
You know, in that group, it sounds like there was a lot of restriction of who you can speak to, who you can interact with.
Yeah.
It was a very siloed, situation where the only sounding board that you did have was just people who were also in the organization who or were leading it. So you never
Yeah,
really had a different perspective.
that's right, because you never had a perspective, because you didn't have any connection or dialogue with anybody outside of the organization, right? So no, no, no phone calls to your family, no watching the news or hearing the news or reading a newspaper. All of that was gone. So and yeah, you're right. That's a good word. The siloed piece. It's like, this is the only reality that you have, is what's here and what's being told to you by the higher ups.
And yeah, and in cults, it's very often very similar in the dynamics of an abusive relationship
Very
where
much so.
you're being cut off from resources, and support, whether it's financial, whether it is, your friends and family. You said that you weren't allowed to, to talk with your friends and family.
That's
How
right.
was that for you?
So at the beginning, when I first joined, um, unfortunately, things weren't that great at home for me, and I was looking for a place to belong and nurture this desire that within me to make a difference in the world, to help people, to heal people. And so it was like, it to me, it was fairly easy to sort of say, okay, I need to do this for the greater good of who I'm going to work with. And so I remember after I did come out, um, and I did reconnect with my family, but I remember my dad telling me that when I left, he thought he would never see me again. And I didn't know that part. I just, I was just doing what was in front of me. And like I said, I'm 18 years old, so I'm not really thinking big picture. I'm just thinking about what this is making me feel and what is being promised to me at that point.
And
Right?
you talked about the sense of, you wanted to be of service, you wanted to
Yes,
heal, you wanted, and and it sounds like they recognize that in you, and they use that to kind of use that as part of their script of, well, if you want to do that, then you can only do that with us here,
that's right.
you know
Yeah.
and it sounds like very manipulative.
Oh, very much so.
What was kind of the beginning stages of realizing this was something that you needed to leave?
There was, I used to get into trouble when I was in England, that Moira was doing this or Moira was doing that. They had this system in the structure of it, is that if you ever witness somebody speaking out against the organization or acting in a way that wasn't protocol,
Mhm.
that you had to write up a report. and hand it in to whoever was the top of that organization or that group. And so I remember one time being hauled in to be told off, or told I wasn't, I wasn't measuring up. And this folder comes out and there's like 6 or 7 reports on me. And some even like had been 6, 7 months prior. And it was just like maybe some kind of little slip or some kind of very innocent. I was always very innocent in the things that I was doing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But then I had to go and pay a price for it, because they had this kind of process that if you were found not to be towing the line or not to be doing all the things that you were told, then you had to go and basically write up your transgressions. And
So
while you,
punitive.
what's that?
Very punitive.
Very much so. And that's what kept you towing the line and being good, because there was this process that you had to go through if you weren't. And you would have to do like menial tasks. You had to run everywhere. You weren't allowed to look at people in their eyes, because you were getting you're getting your stuff together. You were being punished. And so you would go, I did that process 2 or 3 times for different things of Moira's not. There was one time I wasn't washing the windows by protocol, and so that was it. I had to go back and, why are you not doing washing the windows the right way that you were told?
So there's 2 things that I'm hearing in this discussion, is that one is that any dissenting opinion against authority is not allowed.
That's right.
And in our lives, in our relationships, disagreements and conflicts happen, right? Especially
Part of life. Absolutely.
especially when I've worked with parents and children and stuff like that, when parents get upset that their kids are angry at them, right?
Yes.
And they
Yeah.
get upset. It's like, oh, my child is angry at me, or they hate me, or, and it's part of the process of a dissenting opinion, and that dissenting opinion wasn't honored, and that's not allowed. So because you had this dissenting opinion, you're going to get punished, but also we're going to keep you in line with other things just to remind you who is in charge, like the window thing, right?
Yeah.
And these were innocent slip-ups that you were saying, and that you said you were being monitored for about 6 or 7 months through these reports that you had no idea, and then they're being kind of pulled to you. So it's kind of also kind of like a gotcha moment. So
absolutely, that's a perfect word. It's like, haha, now we've got you to be told off, but we're going to tell you off about this and this and this and this also.
Gotcha moments gotcha moments are very toxic in the respect of it's a tool of power, where you're using it to leverage what you want from that person, because the whole time they were defenseless in the moment that you were gathering intel, right?
That's right.
Because you're not aware of it, that they're gathering intel. So then you flip the script to that person of, now you're further submitting them into authority, because you don't know when you're going to be watched.
That's right.
So is that how you felt often? Like you did it? Like,
oh yeah, that you had to make, it's like you needed to have eyes in the back of your head, which, fast forward to now, that's hypervigilant behavior. Is fear of, at any moment I'm going to be found out, or somebody's going to tell me off, or are they going to report me?
It's a tool of control. It's a tool
hugely
of control.
Hugely. Yeah.
So in the process, when you were leaving this organization, can you tell us a little bit about what that looked like, and some of the after events and things that happened when you finally did leave?
Yeah. So I somebody helped me leave, because, I said to you, I'm completely cut off from people outside. But this person actually was only partially in the organization and partially out. So he was able to help me. Basically, I ran down the fire escape stairs and into his car to actually initially get away. And part of what made that decision, we were just talking about these times where you were told off and put your transgressions had to be all aired out, and I was going to be pulled into a space of even higher punishment, if you like, because I was not following protocol anymore. Like I had got to the point of saying, this isn't working, and they were going to fix my transgressions according to them. So I knew I was done. I got to the point where I do have to leave. So I left that day, but I actually got grabbed by 3 of the higher officers because they didn't want me to leave. So they kind of bundled me onto a bus and then had me monitored, and I was on a train. I actually jumped off a train to get away from the people that were taking me back into the final destination of where it would be. I mean, who knows how long I would have had to do the whole part of the menial tasks and the writing things up to the acceptance of what was going to be required. So like I said, I did get away by doing that, and then shortly after that happened, I got the official when you're declared as a person that's saying you're a bad person, you're not welcome in that, they sent me a notice to say you're out, you're not coming back, which was fine. At least I knew I wasn't going to get grabbed again. And so from there, then I had to start reintegrating into a world that I'd basically not existed in for 2 years.
You were completely cut off from things that were going on in the world and community. It was just strictly being in this organization 24/7. Like you lived in
exactly.
it, you worked within the group. That was just what you knew. And they were very careful to also, was there any financial restraints, or were you financially dependent on them as well?
Very much so. I didn't make any money. I think I may have made little bits and pieces to buy cigarettes. We were all heavy smokers in there, but I'm not anymore. That's part of my healing journey, was to give that up. But no, you were completely financially dependent on them. It's like they fed you, they housed you. So I didn't have any income to sort of say, I'm going to just hop on a train or hop on a bus to go and see my family or go and explore what this world is outside of this place. So that again is what you're saying about the abusive relationship, very much so, because you have no resources to go and step out.
What would you say anybody who is listening to this right now, who might be in a similar situation or in a situation where they're kind of bound by a person, organization, or group, or whatever, and they feel like they just can't get out? What would you say to them?
To reframe that, because there is always a solution. And so then it's a piece to say, who can you speak to? Is there somebody you can email or text or phone? Or stop telling the person that you're scared of what you want to do, or right? So it's like that if I had said to anybody, I'm contemplating leaving this place, I know that I would have undermined that. So this is the thing, is when I'm making that decision, there was only one person that knew. And so to answer your question, there is always one person that you can ask, and sometimes you might need to contemplate on that. Maybe it's a neighbor, maybe it's a parent, or a coach, or an Emily or a Moira, right? There's always something that you can do to just say, hey, help, or can you be a sounding board for me, or can you help me figure out what's my next step to basically come back into listening to your intuition.
And
Right?
having that different perspective that you
Yeah.
talk about, because when you're so steeped in it and that's all you're hearing, your voice gets lost in it. So it's good to
Exactly
have
does.
a different voice, whether it's, you know, somebody who's outside of the organization, outside of the relationship,
Yeah.
whatever it is, it's a different perspective that when you're talking to them, that
Yeah.
you will start listening to your own voice again.
Precisely.
It's not the same thing you've been hearing.
Yeah, precisely. Because oftentimes when you do that, you will connect, or you'll say, oh gosh, I've been saying that to myself all along. Right. And so that actually strengthens the fact that, yes, your inner wisdom's there, always trying to sort of go, psst, listen, do this, go there.
And that you're
Right?
not the crazy one. And that's a very common feeling that people have when they're in situations where they're feeling controlled, manipulated, abused.
Absolutely.
That when they are finally either standing up for themselves or they're recognizing things and they're seeing their surrounding or the abuser, they make you feel like you're the crazy one, right? But
Absolutely.
what you're saying is not based in reality, the gaslighting,
That's what it
the
is gaslighting.
manipulation, just kind of denying your perception and what you're saying. They want you to deny your eyes and ears. And
Yeah.
that's it. And they're very serious about that when they do
Oh
it.
gosh, yes. That's what the whole manipulative part of it is they are very serious about it. But, and I'm glad you said gaslighting, because that is the whole part, is that it's like little bits at a time. And over a period of time, you give up trying to access your inner wisdom or your intuitive guidance, because there's no point. You just say to yourself, well, I'm not wise at all. I'm completely dependent on being told who I am, where I'm supposed to be, what I can do, what I can't do. And you just give up.
And what you're saying is, it's like, when you were telling me that, I felt like a connection of like your mind to your gut, where your intuition is, right? And if
Yes.
if you're having this constant interaction with this person who's manipulative or abusive, they're cutting off that contact that you have with your gut, because they're like, don't listen to that, right?
That's right. That's right.
Listen to my intuition, so then you start forming this connection of they know better and you know best for me, and then your intuition relationship starts kind of weakening.
It diminishes, and it's always, I've always said that I believe intuition is like a muscle. We have to keep exercising it and listening to it. And to your point, that's a perfect analogy of, now your head is connected to these outer authorities, as opposed to really the key piece is to drop it down into your heart, into your gut, to say, how am I feeling?
Mm-hmm.
And just sit with it for a moment. How am I feeling? And always then, like now to this, at this point, anytime I feel a little bit nervous or anxious, I pay a lot of attention to that.
Where's it coming from?
Yeah, where's it coming from? What am I picking up on?
Yeah.
Because there's always something there.
And a lot
Whereas,
of people, anxiety is like all these different experiences and feelings that we have. They're part of our evolution of figuring out our surroundings, you know, noting and analyzing, you know, what dangers and good things that are around you. These are our temperature controls, right? So they let us know, like, okay, this is possibly an unsafe situation, or you might be feeling fearful because this is new, you know, because there's also that flip side of fight or flight. But, you know, all of these are things that as humans we have to help us live and to survive.
That's right. Yeah. To live and to survive, and also align with our own gifts and our own calling. Because when we can feel that anxiety, like you say, sometimes we feel a fear or an anxiety, and it's actually just a thrill of excitement of, oh my God, I'm going to get something really awesome outside of my comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
But you only figure that out when you honor the fact that you felt it. Mm-hmm. And you can dialogue with that anxiety to just say, oops, am I picking up somebody's agenda around me? Or am I really being told by my intuition, that's not the best choice right now? And then lo and behold, there's the next one comes along and that's it, right? So it's really to create space and time to take those deep breaths. You mentioned the fight or flight. That happens. That's the amygdala will spark every so often. But if we could just take a deep breath, because the danger's not right here, it's actually sometimes being manufactured by fear-based response from the past, right? So therefore, it's just to say, okay, right in this very moment, I am okay. I am safe. And now what's my next choice? And then the next, and then the next. And that's the best way to start proving to yourself that you're way more resilient than you sometimes can. Sometimes our storytelling, because it sort of derails the fact or the access to your own inner resilience.
The discernment of your intuition.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, and understanding that it's about processing, and that intuition plays a huge part in our life, in our business, in our decisions.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been seeing this for a while in the last couple of years, but definitely more in the past year since COVID. But understanding that intuition is such an important thing to develop, you know, to honor your feeling and to really pick up like what is going on in here, you know, like what you said, am I picking up on somebody's agenda? You know, this is making me feel uneasy. And when the more that you can discern, you know, that's where you're really definitely working on that. So Moira, thank you so much for sharing your powerful story. I appreciate it. I hope that whoever is watching, this brings inspiration and motivation to their lives, and understanding they're not alone in what they're dealing with. However similar that their situation is or not, or certain traits of what you were sharing. In the description box, folks, is Moira's information and how you can learn more about her and her services, and to reach out to her. Thank you, Moira. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Everyone,
thank you, Emily.
Thanks. Stay tuned, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.